would you be happy, and hopefully nobody's ever said no, to almost share what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
So this people usually laugh at me when I first say this. So the best bit of advice I've ever had came from a TED talk that I watched on YouTube. And the bit that people laugh at is it's by Ty Lopez. So Ty Lopez is the here in my garage guy. The you know what I love more than Lamborghinis, knowledge. So he did a TED talk. I think in Luxembourg he did this TED talk. His TED talk is brilliant, and honestly, it changed my life. Like no joke, it changed my life. And his whole thing was, if you want to do something or you want to achieve something, there will be a blueprint for it. There'll be someone that's done it. There'll be someone that's achieved it. Even if it's not directly exactly the same, all of those little bits that you need to know are out there. And the way to do that is to read, to use Audible if you're not too much of a reader like myself. I read all day, so Audible suits me nicely. To watch YouTube videos. You can literally learn from the most successful people in the world who you wouldn't otherwise be able to access through reading, through books, through YouTube videos. You know, you can search like super niche business leaders who aren't that well known, who've grown really big businesses, and watch interviews similar to this, where they're giving like real advice, real practical advice. And that whole thing about doing that, plus finding mentors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to grow a £1 million business, the best way to do it is to speak to someone that's grown £100 million business, because to them, they could probably grow £1 million business in a couple of months. Like they could set it up tomorrow and they could have it done. Whereas just to me, I'd be like, well, where do I start? So someone that's so far ahead that what you want to achieve would be easy to them. And that advice from that YouTube, that TED Talk video really made me go out there and find mentors, find physical mentors who were way ahead of me. And it took a lot of searching, don't get me wrong. And at first it was just kind of, let's speak to my uncle who's done all right for himself. And then it's like, oh, who does he know? Oh, he knows this guy and he's done this. And then you'd speak to them. And then it doesn't necessarily have to be like a long-term, sit down and quiz each other relationship. But when you find the right person, it can be that, and they can become a non-exec. And the value that they bring to me has really changed my businesses. And I've always tried to do that. If someone recommends a book, like I never ignore it. I always try and read it or listen to it. And I think that's probably the best bit of advice I've had.
No, I think it's been, and I completely agree. I think it's always that my mentors are famous people and people that have done it. That's just where I kind of like almost. So I signed up to. Have you ever had a masterclass? Which is it's a £200 a year membership where you get people like Gordon Ramsay, Anna Wintour from Vogue, Annie Leibovitz, who's a photographer, and loads of really famous people give masterclasses on certain key topics. One of the ones which I watched was a guy called Chris Ford, who's a former FBI negotiator, and he teaches negotiation. And it's just a different way to learn. And I'm just blitzing through these things, but it's fascinating. But that's what I choose to do. And I think it's a brilliant piece of advice.
And reach out to people, like seriously, like the most high profile successful people, you reach out to them and say, I'm keen to learn or whatever. If you pitch it the right way, I guess the whole I'll buy you a coffee doesn't really work because they must get that 50 times a day. But if you try and pitch it the other way, it can be really useful. I reached out to a guy once and I was like, look, I really admire what you've done. I was wondering if we could get some time to get some advice from you, give them a bit of butter up their ego. I actually went to meet a guy in an airport once. He was doing a connecting flight. I met him in an airport and we had a chat and I got so much value from him. And he drew this little picture and taught me about this business thing, drew a diagram about decision making, which I then share with the world. I always go on about it because it was amazing. But like I wouldn't have got that if I didn't just send this random guy a message. And it just happened to be landing in an airport near me in the next month. People do want to share their knowledge and experience, and that's people of all levels. Like even people who you wouldn't think of. Like a lot of footballers are quite keen to share things around mindset. So I met a footballer, Victor Valdez,
Yeah, yeah.
ex-Barcelona goalkeeper, Manchester United goalkeeper, Middlesbrough goalkeeper. And he gave me some great advice around the Barcelona mindset, which was just phenomenal, like about how you think in 5 minute stages, about how motivation works in short bursts. And if you have, and his goal for a game would be to not let in a goal in the first 5 minutes. And then he would assess the next 5 minutes and work out what he needed to do and what his strategy needed to be for the next 5 minutes
Wow.
based on how the game was going. And he did the same in training. Like you can really get, when you watch like a motivational video and you're like, really like, yes, I'm going to do it. That literally doesn't last, but it can last 5 minutes.
Fascinating. Honestly, I've never even heard of anything like that, but because this is also one of the things that, so I'm a basketball player, and it's funny that the more elite level that you research and get involved with and just understand the complexity that people go into and the depth of which people think through how to perfect a sport or a business or whatever. And I've read a lot of different books. I've recently finished Sir Alex Ferguson's book where he was talking about the Man United in like the 90s and early noughties. But he didn't talk about, and that's why I love doing this, is that I've learned something today. And hopefully Matt Ord has as well, which is cool. But no, that's spot on. If you were to give advice to your younger self and you can pick any age, whichever, what would it be?
So the whole thing about you should do the things you love. I don't think that necessarily applies because you see a lot of people that do things they love and it becomes mundane, it becomes boring.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is explore everything that you are interested in. And somewhere along the line, you'll find something that you are good at. If you're interested in it and you're good at it, to me, that's the key. Because then you're going to do something that fulfills you in some way.
Yeah.
And you can leave the things that you love for, I guess, hobbies. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I think that's what I would say. Because if you just go after the one thing, like myself, football, I was like, right, I'm going to be a footballer, and it doesn't work out, then what? But if I'd spent more time exploring things that I was interested in, then that could have been a different story. And I think there's probably a lot of people out there that go after that one thing, but then don't go after anything else, or it gets them so down that they've not got anything else in their life, and they just settle for something else that's not fulfilling, when actually there's probably lots of things that we're all interested in that if we read some books, watch some videos, talk to some people that do it, there's probably lots of different things we could do with our lives. You see lots of people that have kind of short 10-year careers in this, that, and the other. And I think those people are prime example of having lots of interests and following those interests.
Yeah, I got you. No, I think it's brilliant. And I just love talking to people. And it's that balance of just finding the stuff that you actually enjoy doing. And therefore it doesn't necessarily feel like work. So for instance, the stress of trying to get this technically to work, will there be bandwidth issues and stuff, is almost part of the challenge, but then actually just flows into a conversation that I really like. And again, I've really learned something today that's been kind of really useful.